Welcome to Channel Weird. I'm your weird host, Clyde Lewis. And the man I am about to interview is a legend, is a veteran broadcaster of this great city. And for some people, he's just Dave Paull. But to me, he's Dave Paull. Dave Paull. For those of you that don't know Dave Paull he's worked with Ground Zero in the past, the show Ground Zero. But the reason why we have Dave Paull working with us is because Dave has been probably one of those unsung heroes of weird, because he has reported on, or has been one of the many reporters, if not the reporter, that's reported on a lot of weird stuff that goes on in Portland. And so that's why, Dave, we welcome you to Channel Weird. And how long have we known each other? We've known each other a while, right?
Many moons. Goes back over a dozen years ago.
9/11.
Yes, that's right.
That's when we first met.
On that day.
Yeah. It was. We were both working together as reporters, and working with Dave. And I didn't even think you noticed me, really, because I saw Dave as being like the senior reporter of All We Survey, and I thought, I'm just this like guy who does morning radio and works with the Rick Emerson show, and I thought, nah, he doesn't care about me. He doesn't. But there were times on a personal level where Dave became a good friend of mine too, and so and that all was about back when I was sick, and he was there and helped me out and took care of me. But we've always had a running gag that we both build each other up as really famous. And even though I am famous, and he isn't,
I'm semi-famous.
He's semi-famous in semi-circles. No, there was this time. Why don't you tell the story about how? Okay, so we were at the what do they call it? The Lights Out gathering in the park. What park was it? It was out near the river.
That was Willamette Park.
So we were at Willamette Park.
Yeah. And
I was the host of the Nights Out and Lights Out, Lights Out, or whatever it was. It was this like neighborhood crime watch, whatever. And so I was introducing the bands. So tell them what happened. Tell them what happened.
We were at Willamette Park.
Yeah, we were.
It was a nice sunny afternoon.
Yes, it was.
And you were up on the stage with the mic and doing your Clyde Lewis thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And you said something like, we want to give a shout out to a nationally known talk show host in the audience, Dave Paull. And so
Dave stands and he's like smiling, waving at everybody. Nobody knew who he was.
Silence. Like, huh?
They're all like, okay. Clyde says we should clap for this guy. But it's a running gag because we have a friend of ours, a broadcasting friend of ours that we're not going to mention any names. But this broadcast friend of ours, whenever we do something that was like really big, really famous, really tremendous, she just go,
yeah,
whatever. It's just Dave and Clyde.
Well, when your movie premiered,
she
lives or used to live right down the street from the place where we showed the movie.
Exactly.
We had a crowd coming in,
and we wanted to have people pay to get tickets and gala event with a red carpet, right?
Yeah, it was called Word Speaker.
Yes,
you were the only actor in that film.
Yes,
did a fine job.
It was supposed to be my goodbye because they thought I was all going to die of cancer.
That's right. You had surgery coming right up.
That's right.
And this unknown broadcast lady was nearby, and I walked along and said, "Hey, are you coming down to see the movie?" "Oh, who's in it?" "Clyde." "Oh, I see him all the time."
Why would I want to see him?
Why would I?
It's just Dave. It's just Clyde. Who cares? We see you all the time. We don't care.
So she never came.
I think a lot of people don't understand sometimes the heritage that goes into broadcasting, and I think you represent a lot of that heritage. In fact, if there was a Radio Hall of Fame, you and a number of other broadcasters that have been the veteran broadcasters. Rosemary Reynolds is another one.
Definitely.
Who's a good one.
Mike Turner.
I worked with all these guys.
Yeah.
It's too bad. I worked at the other station with these guys, and I still love them, even though the station that has them probably doesn't love me anymore, but that's okay. But I do love them, and I do respect them. I worked with a lot of them. But you stand out as I don't know if people would see you as the consummate weird reporter, but you certainly have done a lot of weird stories. And I think, where should we begin? We should begin probably with the Rajneeshee. You covered a lot of the Bhagwan Rajneeshee Purim debacle, or whatever you want to call it. Tell us about that.
It all started in 1980, and I was assigned to delve into this strange red-clad group of people who came from India to found a commune in Central Oregon,
Right.
way out in the middle of nowhere, out of Madras. And I was fascinated because it was such a mix of issues with them, the religious issue, land use, planting at their ranch, and all the freedom of speech, and all these things. A lot of folks did not like the Rajneeshees. So I really delved into the group, got to know them, visited the ranch several times, and had some interesting talks with Ma'anan Sheila.
Yes, good old Sheila, the cackling Sheila. I would have known. I mean, there was this documentary that came out on Netflix a while ago, and I remember hearing about the Rajneeshees, but I never really understood the impact they had in the area of Madras and that rural area there and what they were doing. And getting to know you, and then also watching the documentary, and I even did a show about it because I was doing a show on cults, and I really didn't understand the impact of what this weird cult group was doing to the area. What are some of the things? I mean, did they improve? I heard that they improved the area, though. A lot of people saw it as an improvement. Is that true, or were they?
They came in with some advanced ideas and skill and knowledge about farming, agriculture, and they said, we're peaceful farmers. We're going to raise crops and do things the scientific way with some new methods and improve the soil. It had been a cattle ranch, 64,000 acres,
right?
And they were going to turn it into a new Eden out in the desert.
Yeah.
And they did a lot of that, advanced hydroponics and all kinds of agricultural things, raised cattle and all kinds of vegetable gardens. And then it slowly changed to where it became clear they were not just farmers.
Right.
They built a city, and they had a discotheque and a restaurant and a main street with different shops and buildings. They had their own airport. They had a couple of Lear jets. And
Wow.
Very wealthy community.
How many? And what the Rajneesh or Osho, I remember him too, as being called Osho. He had like a whole fleet of cars.
Yes.
What do you have? Cars.
Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh was a guru who they worshipped, and they wanted to show him their love. They said, what better way do you give someone who has everything than to give him 94 Rolls Royces? He had a
and
fleet.
2 Lear jets.
Yes.
Wow.
94.
And nobody picked up on that, saying, well, why does this guy need so many damn cars? Why does he need a city or a small town? Why does he need 2 Lear jets? And it was like open sex, open love. Were there drugs?
Apparently not. That's what they claimed. There were no drugs allowed. In fact, when I came onto the compound as a reporter, they had a drug-sniffing dog, and they would check you through their security just to make sure it was nothing extensive. But
Right.
they were smart people. They had a lot of education. There were lawyers and doctors amongst them, people who'd held public office, and the leadership was advanced.
Well, okay, so Sheila, let's talk about Sheila for a moment. Okay, the Bhagwan Rajneesh was getting very old, and Sheila just ended up being the spokesperson for this group. What was she like?
She was hot.
Was she?
She was. She was very attractive. An Indian woman who was smart and quick-minded, and she loved to mix it up with the reporters. It was like verbal jujitsu. Talking to her, she would never give you a straight answer. She would always twist and bend, and it was kind of fun because it was like a match with swords or something. You're duking it out, and
they used to make fun of her laugh, right?
Yes.
Somebody even wrote a song, had a 45.
Oh, yes.
Well, you were the one that presented me with that. I was doing a show about it, and you were the guy that said they made a 45 record of Sheila laughing and cackling. Who was that did that? Do you remember?
That was Z100.
Oh, really?
Dan Clark. And it was called Shut Up, Sheila. You can find it on YouTube.
Shut up, Sheila. Shut. I remember yeah. I understand. I remember that because it was funny because when you was associate that I knew that covered the Bhagwan Rajneeshee, and of course Bob Weaver, who was the lawyer.
Robert Weaver.
Yeah, we know Robert too. I mean, Janine knew Robert before she met me.
Yes.
And so it's like we have all these connections. The 6 degrees of separation for the Bhagwan Rajneeshee cult.
And he's in the documentary.
Yeah, he's in the documentary.
Wild,
I was
Wild
really
Country.
Wild Wild Country. I was really impressed because I was sitting there going, "Wait a minute, that's Bob Weaver."
Yeah.
And who's an amazing lawyer, and who actually I owe him because during my when I first came here to Portland, I wanted to organize for Ground Zero. He let me use his offices actually.
Whoa.
And we had a little get together. You were there, I think.
Yeah, you were doing some fundraising, as I recall.
That's where I met Matt Haley, and he drew the logo for us, and that logo has lasted forever because Matt Haley is one of those greats as well that's drawn for Superman and Wonder Woman and all the Avengers. So yeah, a lot of great acquaintances, a lot of weird acquaintances through time, and many of them you're my 6 degrees of separation for all this stuff because I've known you, and I can go 1 or 2 or 3, and I'm in the biggest weird pool of things. Like D.B. Cooper's another thing.
Oh yeah.
Every time we would go to Ariel, where allegedly D.B. Cooper had parachuted, you were there to do interviews and to do all sorts of reporting. What was your interest about D.B. Cooper?
He was, of course, a legend throughout the world, but from the Northwest.
Right.
And I first got on the case right after he did it. It was the next day. It was huge news that this airliner had been hijacked, and he was given ransom money of $200,000.
Right.
And just vanished into the night.
Right.
And it was fascinating. I've talked to the FBI. You've talked to them, and trying to get more factual information. Is the case still open?
Well, no. I think they've closed the case. But what's odd is that, and as you well know, and this is another thing about Dave Paull, how weirdness tends to come to me. Dave was doing a lot of investigative reporting in D.B. Cooper, and he lived in my neighborhood, Dave did, and I found out through another channel that a man by the name of Wolfgang Gossett basically told everybody that he was D.B. Cooper. I worked with him at a radio station in Bountiful, Utah. It was KCGL, KBBX. He did a radio show similar to what I do on Ground Zero. It was one of the first paranormal shows. But he was an Antioch priest. And he made this comment to, I guess, his sons and a few other people that he was D.B. Cooper. And I even had not necessarily an inkling, but I had this strange relationship with this guy because he was an exorcist, investigative reporter, paranormal researcher, but then he worked for the FBI. He worked with prisoners. He was involved with the Hi-Fi murder case. And when I asked another associate of his, I said, "What do you know about Wolfgang?" And he says, "Don't you dare get too involved with Wolfgang because he's got a lot of dark secrets. That if you were to find out what these dark secrets were, you probably wouldn't associate with him." Then I meet Galen Cook, who's this lawyer out of Alaska, who basically tells me about Wolfgang, and I'm telling him about my experiences with him, and immediately I think to myself, this guy has got to be D.B. Cooper. Because, I hear everybody else's stories, and while I find them fascinating, I know that a lot of people want to say to me, well, you have this interest in D.B. Cooper. Here's who I think is D.B. Cooper, and I think, I don't care. I wanted to be Wolfgang. I wanted to be Wolfgang Gossett.
And when you look at the artist's rendition, the sketches of the suspect that's known as D.B. Cooper, and then Wolfgang Gossett right next to that, there's a striking resemblance.
Right. And then I went in, and you told me to do this, and I did it. But I went in and I took that FBI sketch, and I added the white beard and the goatee and the white hair, and it looks just like D.B. Cooper would if he aged into his 70s. Wolfgang Gossett is dead now. He was buried up at Mount Scott Cemetery.
He moved to Depot Bay.
Yeah, he did.
Of all places.
Yeah.
On the Oregon coast.
Yes. Yeah.
And you visited down there.
Yeah. Went down there, tried to find out, a little bit about him. His sons, of course, got in contact with me. He's got a daughter, I believe, that lives in Canada. There's a deposit box of hundreds of thousands of dollars that are unaccounted for. It's really mysterious. And Dave Paull, of course, the man behind investigating the Bhagwan Rajneeshee Purim, D.B. Cooper. There are several others we're going to get to that Dave has had his hands in. A lot of good paranormal stories, a lot of good storytelling coming from Dave Paull, my guest, right here on Channel Weird. We'll be back.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to AncientLifeOil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to AncientLifeOil.com for great CBD. That's AncientLifeOil.com. You'll be glad you did.
Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis. Have you ever wanted Ground Zero merchandise but didn't know where to go? Well, I want to let you know that we now have our own online store with such items as t-shirts, hoodies, decals, tote bags, and other exclusive specialty apparel. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. Coming soon will be signed posters and coffee mugs available as we are constantly adding new items. So shop today at the official Ground Zero store by going to groundzeromerch.com. That's groundzeromerch.com.
Following a disaster, your home emergency kit will be invaluable. Building a kit doesn't take long, and you'll be glad you did when disaster strikes. Here's a list of items to include: a first aid kit, battery-powered or hand crank radio, flashlight, extra batteries, an emergency whistle, cell phone with charger, cash and small bills, a local map with your family meeting place identified, food and water to last 2 weeks, garbage bags, dust masks, and seasonal clothing and footwear. Add prescription medications or any other important items unique to your family's needs. Once you've created your kit, check food expiry dates once a year and update seasonal clothing for growing children. If you have pets, make sure you have everything your furry friends need in an easy-to-carry grab-and-go bag. To learn more about preparing an emergency kit, visit mil.wa.gov/preparedness and get 2 weeks ready.
Be sure to get your low-cost 2-week supply of food with a miraculous 25-year shelf life by going to preparewithgroundzero.com.
Hey guys, this is Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero. In order to counter the growing suppression and censorship of information, we've created our own private digital playground called Aftermath.media. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring a social media platform, videos, audio clips, archive shows, and research groups. There are also documents and a news aggregator, all for $10 a month. If you sign up for a yearly subscription this March, it's only $79. So go to Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media.
Hi, I'm Stephen Briggs from the Surfer Music app. Surfer links thousands of stations displaying song titles and artists organized by genre. It's easy to find your favorites. You can join our Kickstarter campaign. Help us build 5 new features for the Surfer Music app. Find out more, go to Kickstarter.com and search for Surfer Music, S-U-R-F-R. For a direct link, go to surfer.fm and click the Kickstarter banner. That's SURFR.fm.
Sheila, Ma'anan Sheila, you're the bag one's right-hand gal. Big mouth Sheila, Ma'anan Sheila, you should take the silence vow. Shut up Sheila, on the news we see ya, saying words you should not say. She's a red disaster, that is why we ask her to dry up and blow away. Me and Sheila go for a ride, oh, 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 feeling funny inside. Then little Sheila screams in my ear, ow, ow,
It's a Sheila song. It's a song about Sheila. Sheila Shut Up, or Sheila. That's Sheila from the Bhagwan Rajneeshee Purim groups. Oh, listen to that. Bigots ignorant. You're bigots. Bigots ignorant. So, Dan Clark.
Yes.
Was the guy that did that.
Z100.
Z100.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were around that long ago.
Oh, yeah. They were quite prominent here in this market.
Yeah. That's so funny.
The production values on that song were really
I
good.
know. It's really good. If they did it in a little radio studio, they did a great job with that.
Yeah.
So we were talking about D.B. Cooper and, going out to the aerial store. They're trying to rebuild the aerial store.
Yes.
We had the proprietors. That's one of the reasons why we're no longer at the KSL studios, because they dropped by to give us a list of people of the FBI with Wolfgang that attended a dinner there, and they brought it, and apparently there was a miscommunication, and they said that we violated some rule or whatever. And so, yeah, D.B. Cooper has an influence on me in many ways.
Whoa.
Wolfgang Gossett, of course, and of course you've always been a reporter on that front. Other Northwest mysteries in the great woods of the Pacific Northwest, whether it be Washington or Oregon, Bigfoot.
Oh, yes.
Now, this has been something where, like for me, I always say there are stories I don't want to be famous for, and there are other stories I wish people would pay attention to. It's like when I really get to be a serious guy and I'm being very serious about something, somebody always says, well, what about that Bigfoot story? Or what about you seeing Bigfoot? Or what about this? And you have you did kind of a mockumentary
Yes.
about Bigfoot, but it was really well received and really well done. Tell us about your experience in trying to find the truth about Bigfoot.
It all started when my videographer said, hey, Dave, let's go up to Cougar, Washington. It's sort of like a backwoods town right close to Mount St. Helens.
I love Cougar. It's a great
And
place.
it's wilderness area
Yeah, it
up
is.
there, very rugged country.
Yeah.
And let's talk to some of the locals. Let's find out their story, if they've ever heard anything or seen anything up there. So we did. We packed up and went up to Cougar and went to the local diner. I was being obnoxious. Hello, excuse me, folks. We're doing a documentary. Would you mind if I ask a few questions? Well, sure, go ahead. So I'd ask them, have you seen anything, heard anything out in the woods? Do you
Right.
hunt? Do you hike?
Right.
You're out in the outdoors? Nothing.
Right.
Nothing. I talked to 50.
They wouldn't talk to you.
Well, they did, but they always said, yeah, no, I never saw or heard anything.
Oh, man.
15 people we talked to, and nothing from anybody.
Right.
And so that became part of the documentary.
Is it nobody's seen Bigfoot?
Yeah, it's like, got nothing for you. So at the end, I throw my hat on the ground, and I'm cussing and mad like nobody said
Right,
anything.
Right. And then at the end, when the credits roll, you see this creature standing on a rock.
Yes.
And you're like looking at it going, wait a minute. Is that Bigfoot?
It sure looks like Bigfoot.
Yeah, and it's quite funny because I said when I was watching the documentary, I said, this whole thing is an exercise in absolutely nothing.
Yes.
It is the most worthless. I don't know. I said to you, I said, what the point? You go to people. No, I don't want to talk about it. I don't know anything about it. I don't
about
know.
nothing.
It's a show about nothing. And then at the end, the credits are rolling. You look and is that Bigfoot right there?
Uh-huh.
And it's like, wow.
Dave
It's like-
Hudkins
Yes.
did that.
Yeah.
He's our special effects guy.
Yeah.
He had some video of a woman standing next to the stream,
Yeah.
looking out over the water. He added fur to her form and made her into Bigfoot. And there it is.
So it looked really convincing.
If you ever are up near Cougar, I
Yeah.
recommend that you check out Ape Caves.
Oh, I've been there.
It's a wonderful...
But see, the question I have is that Cougar and Ape Caves, and people will. I mean, we just had Cliff Brockman on.
Oh, yes.
From the Bigfoot, museum, and he was on the program, and I told him, I said, one of the things about Cougar, the Ape Caves, Mount St. Helens, all that area there, is that it used to be a hotbed for Bigfoot sightings. I mean,
Yes.
that in Skamania County, and I saw mine in Klickitat County, actually.
Oh, yeah.
But
ECETI.
yeah, I saw it at ECETI. But it was, I basically said, it just seems to me that there is nothing going on in that area of Washington because of the volcanic eruption. We even did a show about that, wondering,
Yes.
and people would call and they'd say, well, there was a rumor, or it was read in a tabloid somewhere, that when Mount St. Helens blew, rangers were carting out these bodies and nobody knew what they were. And of course, I was thinking, ooh, that's an interesting story. What were they carrying Bigfoot out of the wilderness because it was killed or whatever? But I was of the opinion that Bigfoot sightings were just nothing there in that area. And then you did your documentary, and nothing in the area. But Cliff said they're back. He said that you can go there. That's why they call the Ape Caves anyway, is because you can go back there, and apparently you still can somehow you see Bigfoot or you hear Bigfoot in the area.
And I saw the video, and Cliff said that he looked up on the hillside and he saw a figure up there.
Yeah.
And they didn't have their cameras running at that moment, of course.
Right, of course. Yeah.
It's kind of mysterious.
Or the potato camera wasn't working that day.
Yeah.
To get the blurry picture of Bigfoot.
So,
yeah.
I wanted to plug my mockumentary. It's called Searching for Sasquatch on YouTube.
Yeah. Sure.
So, go see it.
Yeah, look at it, watch it, get a good laugh out of it, because it is. It's quite funny that... and then at the end, you're just losing it because you just can't find anybody who wants to talk to you about it.
Nothing.
And then, of course, the end, you see Bigfoot standing there. It's kind of funny. Another thing that doesn't get much press, but you were right on this, and you were talking to me about it, and you were saying, you should do a show about this. I just couldn't find an angle. The DC-10 crash.
Oh, yeah.
Now, let's talk about that for a moment. Now, a lot of people don't know that here in Oregon, there was a DC-10 that crashed in the middle of the city.
150th and East Burnside.
Wow.
Yes. And I was on the anchor desk that night doing the news. The squawk box in the newsroom came on from the police channel saying that there was an airliner circling, that they were having a malfunction with their landing gear.
Right.
The year was 1979.
We interrupt this program.
Yes.
The year was 1979. A DC-10 was circling Portland, Oregon, man.
And our traffic reporter came on the two-way about an hour later.
Yeah.
He says, I just saw the sky light up all blue on the horizon. He says, blue flames.
Whoa.
And I said, get over there. What is it? And that's when we knew that the airliner had gone down. They had over 100 passengers and four people in the crew, something like that.
Right.
And they crashed into a residential neighborhood, narrowly missing houses on each side. I think they clipped a couple of trees, big fir trees. The fuselage split open. There was no fire, fortunately. However, 10 people were killed.
So, yeah, I just can't imagine. Because I remember you told me the story and you were showing me pictures of it. I'm going, a DC-10 actually crashed in Oregon, and 10 people lost their lives. So what, I mean, I'm sure that the National Transportation Safety Board was out here. They took the plane apart. They had to cart it out, put it back together again.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in the end, they found out it ran out of gas.
Really?
Literally. That's why they went down, because they were circling to burn off their excess jet fuel, thinking that they were going to come into PDX and do an emergency wheels-up landing, scraping on the runway, and they didn't want any fire.
Right.
So they burned off all their jet fuel, but the gauge apparently was not entirely accurate, and they'd actually run out of fuel. And the engine sputtered out, and the guy got on the two-way, Mayday, Mayday, we're going down, and boom, hit into East Portland.
Wow. I see. It's a fascinating story because, I mean, I just didn't know. I mean, there are a lot of things that, working with you and hearing some of the stories, I haven't known about Portland, knowing about Oregon, the Pacific Northwest until I met you because, these are some of the news stories, the weird news stories, the bizarre news stories I don't think people even remember. I mean, probably a lot of people who've been here. I mean, this is before my time.
Yes.
This DC-10 crash.
1979.
1979. I didn't get here till 99. So, amazing stories. Dave Paull, my guest, covering the weird in the Pacific Northwest, talking about it today on Channel Weird. We'll be back with more. Don't go away.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to ancientlifeoil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to ancientlifeoil.com for great CBD. That's ancientlifeoil.com. You'll be glad you did.
Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis. Have you ever wanted Ground Zero merchandise but didn't know where to go? Well, I want to let you know that we now have our own online store with such items as t-shirts, hoodies, decals, tote bags, and other exclusive specialty apparel. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. Coming soon will be signed posters and coffee mugs available as we are constantly adding new items. So shop today at the official Ground Zero store by going to groundzeromerch.com. That's groundzeromerch.com.
Following a disaster, your home emergency kit will be invaluable. Building a kit doesn't take long, and you'll be glad you did when disaster strikes. Here's a list of items to include: a first aid kit, battery-powered or hand crank radio, flashlight, extra batteries, an emergency whistle, cell phone with charger, cash and small bills, a local map with your family meeting place identified, food and water to last 2 weeks, garbage bags, dust masks, and seasonal clothing and footwear. Add prescription medications or any other important items unique to your family's needs. Once you've created your kit, check food expiry dates once a year and update seasonal clothing for growing children. If you have pets, make sure you have everything your furry friends need in an easy-to-carry grab-and-go bag. To learn more about preparing an emergency kit, visit mil.wa.gov/preparedness and get 2 weeks ready.
Be sure to get your low-cost 2-week supply of food with a miraculous 25-year shelf life by going to preparewithgroundzero.com.
Hey guys, this is Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero. In order to counter the growing suppression and censorship of information, we've created our own private digital playground called Aftermath.media. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring a social media platform, videos, audio clips, archive shows, and research groups. There are also documents and a news aggregator, all for $10 a month. If you sign up for a yearly subscription this March, it's only $79. So go to Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media.
Hi, I'm Stephen Briggs from the Surfer Music app. Surfer links thousands of stations displaying song titles and artists organized by genre. It's easy to find your favorites. You can join our Kickstarter campaign. Help us build 5 new features for the Surfer Music app. Find out more, go to Kickstarter.com and search for Surfer Music, S-U-R-F-R. For a direct link, go to surfer.fm and click the Kickstarter banner. That's SURFR.fm.
Okay, guys, it's Channel Weird. Dave Paull. Just Dave Paull. Just us.
Yeah, what the heck?
What the hell? Mount St. Helens. You knew I wouldn't not talk about Mount St. Helens. 1980s. Was it September Day?
Let's see.
Was it May Day? May? September?
May 18th.
May 18th.
1980, a Sunday morning.
A Sunday morning. May 18th, Sunday morning. Who was it? Okay. So you were running the news desk that day?
Yes.
Okay, so you were running the news desk that day. Then it was during a traffic report in a plane. Am I correct?
Well,
what happened? Okay, so what happened? Let's just tell the story. I'm trying to remember back in the day where Dave Paull was younger and vibrant and sitting at the news desk when all of a sudden a mountain exploded some 50 miles away from Portland. Go ahead.
Yes. Before May 18th, our crack reporter Mike Beard was up in the traffic plane. he took it up during the noon broadcast on March 27th. And he radioed into the news director, hey, something's happening up here. I'm seeing some kind of eruptive activity, March 27th. And they put him on live, and he said, I can clearly see the black smoke coming up out of the stark white snow. It's no illusion. This is real. There is an eruption. And this was the first little kind of burp of gas out of the mountaintop, well before the major eruption.
So he was flying along out there, and he saw black smoke coming up from the snow.
Yes.
And, I mean, that would be terrifying.
He said there was heat coming up, venting out of the mountaintop, and the plane was rising up, and they could feel the heat inside the cockpit of the plane.
Wow.
And
that's a lot of heat.
Whoa.
So, okay, so he first saw the plume.
Mike Beard
first saw the plume. And then let's fast forward. Well, there were earthquakes there.
Swarms of earthquakes.
Right.
I mean, unusually intense and frequent.
Much like what we're getting at Mount Hood right now, which is kind of bizarre. Well, yeah, they've been like, 5,000 or so minor little shakes that happened like a week or two ago. Mm-hmm. And I was talking about it a little bit because, I mean, I've been hearing like thuds and thumps, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm 50 miles away from.
Yes.
Not even that. I mean, we're 30 miles away because we're on 26 right there in Pine, the area there, Pinehurst area.
Yes.
And I mean, I worry that if the mountain was to blow, we'd get taken out with it because when St. Helens blew, it was affecting towns some 40, 50 miles away.
Oh, yeah.
Kelso Longview was in the crosshairs of a mudslide.
Yes.
And it was just scary.
Yes.
So tell us about what happened in May. Where was everybody? What were you doing in the newsroom? What do you remember from that day?
There were worldwide alerts going out from Mount St. Helens, from the what do they call them?
Geological Survey.
Geological Survey.
Yeah.
And they were saying, get in here. This is big. It's going to happen. We don't know when.
Jeez.
And we staffed around the clock with our newsroom. We normally didn't do Sunday morning news, but I drew the short end of the stick, and I got that assignment, never dreaming that I would be at the mic when the big blast happened.
Right.
And it was 8:32 on a Sunday morning, May 18th, and of course all the wire services lit up, ding, 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 alarm bells, and the
Back
phones.
when we had the teletypes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
The phones lit up. Something's happening. I can see huge amounts of smoke, and we had it on the air very shortly, within minutes, but didn't know the full extent because it was so big. And called all the news staff, full court press, let's get on this. And
right. The only thing I remember when I was a kid was they were doing, somebody was doing a report, and I think it was Extra, back when Extra was a thing. It was like the Extra, it was after the news. They would do this show. It was kind of like what the precursor to TMZ, I guess. TMZ just follows actors and actresses, but Extra basically did all these stories that were not necessarily news stories, but they were up your angle, where you delve into these strange stories, and they were talking about Mount St. Helens, and they were talking about how the mountain was showing signs that it was going to erupt. And they interviewed Harry Truman.
Oh, yes.
And I remember Harry Truman. The only thing I remember about Mount St. Helens is Harry Truman, this old man.
Who lived at Spirit Lake.
Yes.
Right there at the base of the mountain.
Right.
He says, I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
He was drinking his Coke and whiskey and
playing
the piano and had
he had a dog.
He had a dog and like 17 cats. And boy, old Harry was going to stay right where he was.
Right. And I remember when I heard that Mount St. Helens finally blew, all I could think about was Harry Truman. All I could think about is what he was doing when the mountain collapsed. What was he doing? What was he thinking? I mean, he already said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving. And then the rumbles happen, the rocks fall, and you're in your house, and that's it. You're done.
Yes. And I know television crews that went up to interview him offered him a free ride out. They said, we'll get in a chopper. We'll take you out. Nope. Not going to leave.
Not only that, but there was also I guess they were bikers or hikers or something that had cameras. And they had set these cameras up, and apparently those cameras survived somehow, but they showed the mountain just completely slide out.
Yes.
The whole plume go up.
That
And
beautiful.
I guess those guys died.
Yes.
Well, they died, but the camera footage remained.
Reed Blackburn was working right up on the mountain. He was a geologist, and he had all the surveying equipment and monitoring equipment.
Right.
He got on the two-way that morning at about 8:30, and he radioed into the volcano people. He says, Vancouver, this is it. His last words.
Oh, my God.
Gone.
And yet we still have the footage of what happened.
Yes, a beautiful side view of the collapse of the mountain.
Yeah. Terrifying to even think that, once again, Harry Truman being buried in all that rock. And my wife is from that area. She was from Kelso Longview, and she remembers riding horses with her friends. And they looked behind them, and they saw Mount St. Helens just collapse. And so she went home and told her mother, she said, we just saw the mountain fall. And her mother says, oh, come on, you kids. You're just making stuff up. And they went outside, and all that was there was this big, black, ominous cloud. And there was lightning in the cloud, and it looked like some hellfire thunderstorm coming at them. And then they were told that, Kelso, Longview area was going to be buried in a mudslide.
The blast went north.
Yeah, it went north, but it was a mudslide that was going behind the mountain. It was going to be heading towards Kelso, Longview. And apparently something happened where I guess all of those trees that were destroyed made a dam.
Yes.
They made a natural dam which blocked all the mud from hitting Kelso Longview. So by God's luck of the draw, somehow those trees formed this huge dam and all the mud was held off.
Yes. It's nature reacting to all this huge volcanic force.
Right.
And I do remember, though, that the port there at Kalama, I believe it was all silted up.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get the ocean-going freighters in because the river bottom was filled with volcanic silt.
Right.
Running off down the streams.
I think the most important thing to remember about the Mount St. Helens situation is that now you go up that area and it's just pristine. It's beautiful. And it just goes to show you that for some reason this planet, Earth, is resilient. It always seems to recover, and we're looking at something that was very much like an atomic bomb going off.
Yes,
worse than a huge force, wiping out 40 miles of trees and uprooting the trees, causing mudslides, silting the water, destroying the entire ecosystem, just gone. And you go up there now, and it's beautiful. The trees are there, everything's back.
Elk are back.
Elk are back, animals, wildlife are back. So once again, when people worry about whether or not the world's going to end, it's not about whether or not the world's going to end. The world's going to be resilient, apparently, unless something really bad happens to it. But it's resilient, life finds a way here. And I think when you're talking about the end of the world, it's not about the world ending. It's about whether or not we're going to be here, whether or not we're going to survive it. And because, man and volcano, Harry Truman's a prime example of man and volcano wins.
Yes.
Mother Nature wins. And so if we're wiped out, that's the end of the world. But the Earth is still going to be here in some shape or form, and it's resilient. And that's the beauty of the Mount St. Helens story.
Yes. There has been tremendous regrowth. Maybe the only survivable things that would be left if we're not here would be like cockroaches and some of those.
And parts of Cher probably would be left.
Yes. She will go on.
She'll go on forever.
Forever.
Yeah, exactly. You look at Prince Philip, he looks like a big corpse walking around at 90. Cher at 134, still hot. She'll be hot at 134.
Yeah.
So that'll be great. With me is Dave Paull, reporter extraordinaire. One of the reporters that have reported on some of the most strangest things, and we've recruited him many times for Ground Zero projects. Coming up, we're going to talk about a Ground Zero project that he was involved with, where we went to Martinez, California to stalk the ghost of the Zodiac Killer. And Dave Paull was there. So we'll talk about that coming up, and a project that he's involved in out of California as well. We'll be back with more in Channel Weird. Don't go away.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? Who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath. exhale, and go log on to ancientlifeoil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to ancientlifeoil.com for great CBD. That's ancientlifeoil.com. You'll be glad you did.
Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis. Have you ever wanted Ground Zero merchandise but didn't know where to go? Well, I want to let you know that we now have our own online store with such items as t-shirts, hoodies, decals, tote bags, and other exclusive specialty apparel. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. Coming soon will be signed posters and coffee mugs available as we are constantly adding new items. So shop today at the official Ground Zero store by going to groundzeromerch.com. That's groundzeromerch.com.
Following a disaster, your home emergency kit will be invaluable. Building a kit doesn't take long, and you'll be glad you did when disaster strikes. Here's a list of items to include: a first aid kit, battery-powered or hand crank radio, flashlight, extra batteries, an emergency whistle, cell phone with charger, cash and small bills, a local map with your family meeting place identified, food and water to last 2 weeks, garbage bags, dust masks, and seasonal clothing and footwear. Add prescription medications or any other important items unique to your family's needs. Once you've created your kit, check food expiry dates once a year and update seasonal clothing for growing children. If you have pets, make sure you have everything your furry friends need in an easy-to-carry grab-and-go bag. To learn more about preparing an emergency kit, visit mil.wa.gov/preparedness and get 2 weeks ready.
Be sure to get your low-cost 2-week supply of food with a miraculous 25-year shelf life by going to preparewithgroundzero.com.
Hey guys, this is Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero. In order to counter the growing suppression and censorship of information, we've created our own private digital playground called Aftermath.media. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring a social media platform, videos, audio clips, archive shows, and research groups. There are also documents and a news aggregator, all for $10 a month. If you sign up for a yearly subscription this March, it's only $79. So go to Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media.
Hi, I'm Stephen Briggs from the Surfer Music app. Surfer links thousands of stations displaying song titles and artists organized by genre. It's easy to find your favorites. You can join our Kickstarter campaign. Help us build 5 new features for the Surfer Music app. Find out more, go to Kickstarter.com and search for Surfer Music, S-U-R-F-R. For a direct link, go to surfer.fm and click the Kickstarter banner. That's SURFR.fm.
And we're back with Channel Weird. Dave Paull is my guest, and something that wasn't in the Northwest, but we started in the Northwest at a cemetery, the Lone Fir Cemetery, doing an investigation into ghosts, doing an investigation into with paranormal.
Yes.
And you were walking through the cemetery, and it was preparatory for a trip that you were taking with the Ground Zero crew to Martinez, California, at the Martinez Gazette. And what we were doing is we were looking for the ghost of the Zodiac Killer. Tell us about what happened and what your experience is with that, being a reporter who, you have a very good objective view of the weird. But tell me about your experience when you were immersed in a full-on ghost hunt.
Well, the cemetery was sort of a setup piece to introduce the topic that we were going to look into the case of the Zodiac Killer out of San Francisco, in a town called Martinez. And I was a little reluctant. I mean, I'd heard about this famous case of a serial killer, and it's a grisly story, horrible, horrible, in which people lived in fear for many years down in the Bay Area. And I decided to go with it and to come with you because you were kind enough to invite me down, and we all flew down to Martinez, and you set up shop right there at a newspaper office, the Martinez Gazette.
Yeah.
That was a nice, comfortable place to be, and it was where one of the suspects in this case had once worked. Geico, what's his name?
Richard Gaikowski.
Gaikowski, yes. And it was kind of calm at first. You set up your live radio feed for your national hookup.
Mm-hmm.
I went down the street to have a bite to eat at the local Chinese place. Great food.
Yep.
I'm sitting there at the counter, and my phone rings. Hello, it's Sarah. Hey, have you been listening? Is Clyde okay? And I said, well, what do you mean? I'm just having dinner. He just had some kind of a panic attack on the air. And I finished my fortune cookies, and I ran down to the newspaper office.
Right.
And what had happened there?
Well, what had happened is that we were doing an interview with the editor. I believe she was the head editor of the Gazette.
Yeah.
And she was talking to me about how she was being, how many of the staff there were being harassed by this ghost. And the ghost had made mention of the fact that he was the serial killer, that he was the Zodiac, and his name was Richard Gaikowski. Gaikowski was an editor there at one time, and he was considered a suspect in the case.
And you were sitting at a desk right across.
I was sitting at a desk on the radio, on the air, interviewing this woman, and I asked her a question, and all of a sudden, she started crying. Tears were welling up in her face. She looked at me and she didn't say anything. We had like dead air, very uncomfortable dead air for about 30 seconds. And she just looked at me, had this stare with these teary eyes. She got up, she walked away. And one of the ghost hunters that was there, they had the ghost hunt going on as I was on the air. And one of the ghost hunters said, "Oh, so you pick on the weak. Come and pick on me. You know, you pick on a woman. You know, you're going to pick on me, right?" And he's just taunting the spirit. And actually, the reality is that she wasn't the weakest of the weak there. The weakest of the weak was me. And the reason why was because I was no more than 3 months out of surgery from my second kidney cancer nephrectomy. And they told me that I'd be okay to go on this trip. So I was there, and I was doing fine. My health was okay. I mean, everything was healed on me, but I was still, of course, a little, off kilter and wasn't as strong as I could be, but I was able to go on this trip. So what had happened is that after the ghost hunters were taunting the ghost, I felt this feeling come over me where it felt like my windpipe was shutting down, that it was closing in on me and I couldn't breathe. And I was on the air, so I didn't know what to do. I've never had that experience before where I couldn't talk or I felt shaky. I started crying. I started breaking down, and I felt like I needed to throw up. I felt like I needed to throw up. I mean, they grabbed a trash can, put it there near the desk, and what had happened is James Evan Pilato, who was the producer, took over for me. We were on the national. We were also being heard on Sirius FM all over the country. This going on. I ran outside, grabbed onto a tree, took off my shoes, put my feet in the mud, grabbed onto a tree, and just barfed. I was like throwing up everywhere, and I didn't know what was going on with me. And even when the ghost hunt was over, everybody wanted to go celebrate and hang out together. I wasn't. I was in the car sick. I was sick the whole night. So I don't know what had happened. I would assume that I was being attacked by an entity. Because people say, "Oh no, Clyde ate," because they had like pizza boxes and Coca-Cola cans and bottles everywhere. And people said, "Oh no, he ate pizza. That's what did it." I wasn't. I was eating Chinese vegetables. I had to eat healthy food because I just got out of the hospital, and so people were making judgments saying that it was all faked and everything. But no, I really, truly, and you were there, you saw it.
Yes. By the time I got back, much of what you're describing had already happened.
Yeah.
And I looked around and I said, "What? What?"
Yeah.
And I went and saw the video of all of this, and it was drastic. It was like, oh.
Yeah, it was horrible. And there was something else that happened too. There was a woman that showed up at the place. She brought in this hood that had these Zodiac Killer's logo on it, or the insignia. And when I told her, I said, "This looks like the thing that was used in the murder," and she goes, "It was." And I said, "Who are you?" And she says, "I was a girlfriend of Richard Gaikowski's."
Wow.
And I immediately just thought, "Oh my God, this is scary." And in fact, they were Satanists. They were part of the Black Lodge, or the Black where Anton LaVey did his thing. We found out that they were Satanists. So the whole thing was kind of creepy. The whole thing was just completely something that I didn't expect.
What did you sense? Was there a feeling, a spirit, presence?
Oh yeah. It was evil. They shut down the Martinez Gazette after a few months, a year or two after we left.
Yes.
So
moved.
Yeah. No, I thought they shut it down.
Oh.
They shut it down completely. They don't have it anymore.
Oh.
Maybe they moved. I don't know. We'll look into it. But yeah, apparently that building is now empty because it just was haunted. There was nothing. They couldn't get any work done. There was too many things going on. And it was a very creepy affair. And you were there.
Gaikowski was an official suspect at one point.
And there was also somebody, they just recently translated the cipher, some of the ciphers, and they point to Richard Gaikowski. So, and we even had an EVP of him saying, "My name is Richard Gaikowski," or Richard Gaikowski. It was weirdly worded how he said it.
Oh.
So we had that. And of course, you've worked with a lot of other people in California. There's another thing you're working on right now, a project.
Yes. Yeah, we'll get to that. But I just wanted to say a shout out to your crew. Wes, Scottco, and Brian, they were both with us, did a standout job.
Yeah, they did.
Good guys to work with. And but I've never felt as tense as I felt that night. I mean, it was just, you could cut it with a knife.
It was scary.
This eerie sense of danger
it was
in
terrible.
that room.
Mm-hmm. It was probably the first time I've ever felt a room being almost like something satanic was in that room. It was just really creepy. Yes. And it's not just something I was thinking about because it's a nice place to be. It was an office that just seemed to have this haunt.
I liked
behind
Martinez as a community.
Yeah, it's a great place.
Good place.
I love San Francisco, and I love that area.
But speaking of California, I'm affiliated with a YouTube channel that comes out of L.A. My producer, Rod Harrell, is there, and he's doing a bang-up job on his channel. It's called Orthicon Ghost. The name of the show is Beyond the News, and he's done over 100 episodes so far.
Right.
It's a satirical show. It takes our current events and looks at them through a lens of satire and comedy.
And conspiracy theory.
Yeah, lots of that.
Because I've seen that. I've seen snippets of it. I've seen videos of it, and it's a remarkable little piece because it's just him, and occasionally gets help from others, but it's just him, and he just carries it with these news stories, and he plays the characters. It's almost like it's a one-act play that he does on video, but he carries the characters, and then you're involved. You do the voice, and you do other things, and you do introductions, and you do reporting as well. But it's like it takes some of what we call the fringe stories, or some of the and even some political stuff, and just eviscerates it with conspiracy theory, comedy, wild stuff,
Saturday Night Live skit type of thing,
right?
And he's a writer, he's a director, he produces, and he does all the videos.
He's an actor.
He is. He's a wonderful.
What movies? He's been in movies, right?
Character actor. Yes. Let's see. He was in a couple with George Clooney.
Oh.
He was an extra in Hollywood. One of them was Hail Caesar.
I remember that movie.
Yes.
Well.
And I'm kind of skipping the
He does a lot
one.
of Coen Brothers movies.
That's right. He was in a couple of Coen Brothers, doing, again, some extra background work, but he's making a go of it in Los Angeles. It's, as you know, it's a very insecure trade, and he's hanging in there. So
yeah, and he's a survivor too. He went through a really big health scare there for a minute, and
yes, Rod Harrell had some serious bouts with cancer, and he seems to be fit and healthy today.
He's a survivor. I mean, I remember when he went through it. I was feeling really bad for him. Around the same time I went through my situation, but for him, he's such a bold. I guess you'd call him a bulldog when it came to investigate. He wrote a thing about John Lennon.
Yes.
He produced on John Lennon.
He did. And it's on YouTube. You can find that one also. Rod Harrell. And all good luck to you, Rod. He's a feisty guy.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. Check him out when you get a chance. It's always fun to watch him do his stuff. Dave Paull, it sounds like the music is coming, and that means we're done.
They're playing our song.
They're playing our song. Thank you for joining us today on Channel Weird. I hope you had a good job, good time, and great. And we'll be seeing you somewhere and cheering you on. We're getting an audience of nameless people, and
thank you.
We'll give you all the accolades you deserve.
Yay! Thanks, Clyde.
Thank you all, and thank you for joining us with Channel Weird, and we'll see you next week for sure.